Kia ora, good morning.
Look, I have to tell you, it's great not being the mayor. It's a fantastic feeling to be unchained, I have to say, and be able to be honest and to get invited to come and tell and talk about what you've done and what you think should be done. I mean, I've had a long history, I guess, in politics. I'm a protege of Sir Dovemeyer Robinson. I was his campaign manager way back in the 1960s and 70s. And I kind of learned at that great man. There's a hell of a good book, by the way, the Urban Legend, the book on Robbie. I really suggest anyone that likes local politics or likes outrageous characters, the book on Robbie is just great. And then I went on to learn and work with Norman Kirk, as you know, and David Longy, and I survived Helen Clark, and all of those kind of things that you do quite well, actually. I saw her just last month. I went up to the Sustainable Cities Conference and Helen was the major speaker. And God, she was as good as ever. She was terrific. And Celia Wade-Brown, I jumped up and sung a little Waiata. We thought we'd cheer her on. But those were the political years, really, of working with political giants in this country, people that had an enormous vision. Longy, Clark, Kirk, they all had visions for this country. They all had a great passion for doing things. And I guess I learnt from them. I learned a couple of things. One was, in politics, it's wrong to be right too soon. And that's really quite important. You've got to get it right. And talking of Robbie had this incredible dream for Auckland, but it was a little too soon. And then when he was dead and well, he was old and angry and grumpy, people would say, if only we'd listened to Robbie. And for 18 years as mayor, I'd sit in the Auckland chambers and people would say, oh, if only we'd listened to Robbie. And I felt I was channeling the old bastard. You know, I would listen there and say, well, this is what he used to say, and this is what he used to think. And they'd go, oh, isn't that wise? But he was destroyed by pettiness and jealousy and that Auckland disease, greed. And so I guess that when I became the mayor, and I never thought I'd be the mayor because I actually didn't want to be the mayor, I wanted to be something else out there, God knows what, but I wanted to be a strategist, if you like, to save the Waitakere Rangers. But I happened to fall into the job as mayor. And when I fell into that job and found that I really liked it, I liked it to work as you do. There's probably mayors here. I see 700 meetings a year for 18 years and watch your life get eaten up, really, by serving the community for so long. The idea of just being the mayor of Waitakere, to me, was good. It was fantastic. But I wanted to see a bigger Auckland, a more united Auckland. I couldn't really live comfortably with going across the harbour bridge and there was North Shore, jealous, avaricious of what we were doing and us going possibly to knock off a couple of companies to come over to Waitakere. This is all crap, really. It just didn't make sense. On one side of the road, you could light bonfires. On the other side, you couldn't. On one side of the road, your swimming pool fence had to be 2 metres high, but on the other side, it had to be 3 metres high. Which is fair enough, I guess. Bar licences, dog licences, just across the street. In Auckland, it just didn't make sense. And so, behind the scenes, a few of us along the way, Auckland never trusted its mayors, they fired them every 3 years. But the few ones that stayed, Curtis and I, we kind of conspired for the concept of a bigger city, to do it and to actually try if it would work. And the other thing that I always used to live with, the mayor, as a mayor, is bugger the boxing, pour the concrete. And I always felt that if you had a great idea, a really good idea, well, give it a go. See if it would work. If you really felt, and I think mayors and councillors often have very good judgment. They sometimes don't have good judgment, but sometimes they do. And the idea of creation of a super city seemed to me to make really good sense. At one stage, I conspired with Metro magazine and Owen McShane, I remember, to actually try and take Auckland out of New Zealand. I thought that was a really good idea. And just seal the borders and send all the factories to the Waikato, and which I thought you'd love. And then we would do our own thing on the model of Singapore. We took the model of Singapore, which was controlled by the rubber and the tin barons, and it became something other than Malaysia. And when I had a chance a couple of years ago to talk to Lee Kuan Yew personally about that, and to see how he did it, and it was a little draconian, and yeah, it was a bit tough. But God, what a delivery. What a fantastic delivery Singapore turned out to be. And so the idea of Auckland in that kind of model, and it seems bizarre, but 20 years ago, we thought that's the way to do it. And you know, that's what it is now. So I've come for the next 20 minutes to tell you what has happened, because I've been part of it. And although I grieved about my own patch, as mayors do, about losing the city, it's like your wife running away, I guess, or something like that, and you can't do much to stop her. And I haven't had that, but I'm pleased to tell you, yet. But I did feel like, oh shit. But I then realized, well, it's inevitable. So sort it out, shit happens. And I felt that after I'd grieved for the city, I realized that it was still going to be there. Westies would still be Westies. We'd still be us. We'd still have our character. We'd still have our passions and our love and our surf and our beaches. And we'd still be us. So what were you losing? Pictures on the wall, pictures of other mayors, dead mayors, live ones that you wish were dead, all of that kind of thing, names that you don't even know about, and that kind of thing. Because history, in a way, is somewhat dead, although I'm a historian, I love it. It's got to be alive. And so the idea of the Waikato becoming larger or more substantial, if you like, or more sustainable, to me was quite inspirational. And I thought, come down here and tell them to bugger the boxing and pour the concrete and do it by Christmas. Because there was a big looming danger. It's a huge danger. It's that Auckland. It's that Auckland that I think might pull the balance of New Zealand out of kilter. Because I've always felt that, you know, a country as small as New Zealand is a pretty good country we've got here, needs to be in balance. And Auckland has really got its act together, amazingly so. And it's surprised us inside. So if you can spot what's going on, Isthmus of 1,000 lovers, Tamaki Makura, and I guess right now about 500,000 pissed off ratepayers who've got their bills this week. But in the suburbs, they'll get over that. They're Aucklanders by Sunday. They'll find something else to do. You know, drugs, booze, parties. You know, that's the kind of thing. Auckland is all the things that big cities are. Fun, dirty, clean, good, bad. It loves itself. It's in love with itself. And that's terrific to see that kind of energy. I just run the waterfront. I just run a small bit of it these days. And the energy of on the waterfront, which you'll see a little bit here, is phenomenal. But it's all over. Suddenly, even the suburbs have taken a new life. And so this is really about 4.1 million people in a small country doing something that they never thought possible. They did bugger the boxing and they poured the concrete. And they didn't really want to, in a way. They were kind of dragged a little bit into it. And they had doubts that things wouldn't work, that the rubbish wouldn't be picked up, that mad dogs would run around the streets, only in South. Here are the key facts. We're very diverse. 56 European. Most of the people that I talk to have only been in New Zealand probably 10 years. Maybe 40% of any audience that I talk to hasn't been born there, has moved there. You know, it's a terrific, eclectic mix. And it's the fastest growing part of Auckland, of New Zealand. It's an amazingly interesting city, which it wasn't before. And what did it? What brought us together was an event. 3 cheers for the Olympics, 3 cheers for the Volvos, America's Cup. In some ways, an event galvanizes, a bit like a hanging too, I guess. It makes you do something, either to get out of jail or to create something. And this was something. I was on the Rugby World Cup, and we really feared what might happen. I guess Boris Johnson felt the same way in London. But then we thought, what happens if it's just fantastic? What happens if the Samoan and Tongan community fall in love with each other? And they did. What happens if everyone comes to town? And they did. We thought, if this works, Auckland will be transformed from feuding boroughs, angry suburbs, to one city. And this was the gunpowder which said, hey, it's called Auckland. Just a quick bit of history. 1915, 1945, feuding boroughs, pretty small, pretty unhappy. 2001, bigger, much bigger. 2008, huge. And so all of this is relevant. But governance reforms gave us making Auckland not greater, but better, more smarter, more quicker. And I guess that the huge area, and it's very big, and here, Waikato is just over the border. And I think that is a real danger. We're coming to get you, whether you like it or not. And a bit like the steamroller, if you're not part of the steamroller, you'll be part of the road. And that's not a great attitude to know that's coming your way. So you've got to get up and got to get ready and got to get strong, I think, and courageous and match in style and match in partnerships with this monster, this kind of headless monster. I'm not talking about the mayor and the council, but just what it is by its might, by its strength. And the way that we've gone ahead, this very interesting listening to Rod Royal, we've captured government. No longer can government say, oh, those feuding, stupid mayors never agreed, even though we did. And even though many of us are quite good colleagues and friends, we still heard that we're still fighting over nothing. Now we've captured Auckland. And Key and the ministers, powerful government this is, and a popular government this is, now feels that Auckland can be talked to. They still put the mayor in the corner about his road and his undergrounding, all that. But in general, the relationship with government has never been better. And that will continue. This large reform, and look before what we had this crossing of everything, regional council, district councils, city councils, community boards, 145, all the chairs. People I loved the community boards. I thought they were my arms and legs, really, but no one else seemed to like them. There were 7 mayors, good and bad, but mainly good. 13 regional councillors, draconian, bullyish, all that, Not interested in business, didn't like anyone to clip the ticket, Piha Cafe, Hillary Trail, all that kind of stuff. God, you can jump out the window sometimes, but that's what we've got now. One Auckland Council, they kind of get on. It's show business. Sometimes they fight in front of the media, then they talk, just like we heard before. One regional mayor, and he's good. Lena's terrific, considering the alternatives, I guess. I guess that's not saying much, but it's saying quite a lot. If you're a mayor, I like him enormously. He sings. That can't be bad. He cheers people up. And he is a good leader. He understands presence. And he's got a charismatic thing. And so the city needs that kind of governance, I think, and gravitas. And Len does that. And 20 councillors and 21 local boards who have got respect and can deliver, and 149. But so it's tighter, sharper, and it feels good. I think the leadership is there. And I think that Len will stay. I think he will stay. There's no one in Kui of knocking him off. And that's his vision. Very hard to knock that vision. The world's most livable city. And we've crept up. We've crept up the list. We're 29th or something now, and then 14. Now we're 6 and 7. We're equal with Melbourne. And that's not too bad. And Sydney. You've got to watch livable cities because you make them so clean nobody wants to live there. You've got to have a bit of style with cities. Why do people go to Paris and New York and other great cities? Because they can have great life there. And so I think that we've got it right. Target of 40% reduction in CO2, that's not bad, Urban quality, rural, natural environment. That's looking good. Auckland's looking green. An excellent transport system. You've got to have that. It's got to be safe. People have got to feel safe. People have got to feel that there's something for them. So that's a good mayoral vision, I reckon. And the Auckland plan, which we're launching again tonight, is huge. A forest has been felled just to do the mayoral Auckland plan. But hey, it puts it together. It's young. Auckland feels young. Cities have got to feel young. There's few cities in New Zealand that feel young anymore. Nobody's breeding. Only in Auckland do we have kids. Everyone's in rest homes. So it's a problem with New Zealand's population. We're all getting old. And so that's very important. Māori is hugely important to me. And Auckland has got that balance. I had the first Tamaka Runanga, and that worked, and now Len has picked up the Standing Māori Committee. And Asia feels good in Auckland. So does India, so does Malaysia. We feel good about the diversity of the city and the sustainable lifestyle. This is the Auckland plan, and it makes sense. Economic development, we've captured brains. That's really important. We've captured the idea of a strategic way forward to think. New Zealand doesn't think very well, and we don't debate very well. But we've kind of set a platform up for this city to actually talk. And we understand the issues. For the first time, we understand the issues because we're collective. I can't believe in some ways, even when I'm showing you these slides, that we've done this in 20 months, but it's actually taken 20 years to get here. A bit like the Olympic race, it takes you a long time to train, and then the race starts at a starting line. So we've started it, and it seems to me to be falling so well into place. Yeah, sure, there's bits on the sides that we wish we could fund or do, but hey, it's creating a city of opportunities, and I think so could you. The targets are tough, but we can do that. Look at some of those targets. Annual increase in real GDP, annual growth in population and productivity together. We can achieve all of that and move up 20 places in 20 years against other OECD countries. Easy. So we know what we can do, and we know we're capable of doing it. And there's a very bold goal. I wanted to show you this when I put this together, that the people and the economy working together can create a prosperous economy. I love that. I love creating wealth. That's what I tried to do in Waitakere. Create jobs and create wealth, mayors for jobs, task force, all of those things. Just seize the moment. But we need to think that we can work together. And the priority ideas, you've got to set these goals. You've got to spend the time on the ground thinking, dreaming of what you want. Because I think the time is right. And I guess it's the hot topic in the Waikato. But the problem here, as everywhere, is people don't give a toss. I think that 2/3 don't vote. I mean, what goes with that, I think? But I think that you know that. And I think this will bring your people to vote. I also think, by the way, New Zealanders will do anything if you ask them, and nothing if you tell them. So you've got to persuade them. You've got to persuade them as a bit like that Sydney example. I was able to, the rates in Waitakere were outrageous. And people continued to vote for me and the councillors because they could see what we were delivering. They got 5 libraries, beautiful swimming pool. They got a great stadium. They saw what we were doing. They loved the beautification. They loved us pulling all that crap out of the streams. They loved that. 5,000 people came every kind of weekend or every month and pulled out shopping trolleys and car bodies and fridges that had been thrown over the streams for 80 years. People just used to take their groceries, put them in the car, and then throw the shopping trolley into the stream. It seemed bizarre. Now we cleaned it all up. But when we cleaned it up, we cleaned up their attitude. We gave Waitakere pride, huge pride in themselves. They never thought that was possible. We cleaned up the graffiti. When I came as mayor in '92, every wall was scribbled on. By 1996, there was no wall scribbled on. We continued wiping it off. It cost us, I don't know, 60, 70,000 bucks. But we had a van and 2 guys, and then we had 2 vans, and we had 3 vans, and we cleaned it up. Suddenly the place looked safe. So you've got to do those kind of things, but you've got to create a city that works. And you've got to be aware that there's huge world trends swirling around Auckland and you. Trends, for the Labour Party, I invented trends. We're kind of putting together ideas, visions, the way the world is going. Trends are and some of the trends are horrifically frightening. I still work on trends. I'll give you the 2 biggest trends for your life and your kids, your grandkids' lives. They are the environment and terrorism. There won't be too many other trends, I reckon, in the next 10 to 20 years. And the environment that terrifies us. So I'm putting them together now. You and I found the trend of the environment. For 18 years, they elected me mayor on the environment, the eco-city, the environment, sustainability, pride in that. I never put together terrorism. Why would I look for terrorism? But I do now. And the world terrifies us now. Tsunamis, earthquakes. The world has just suddenly gone a bit feral on us. We think it's going to shake us off like dogs shake their fleas off. I think that's kind of possible. So those things are what scare us. And so we live now in a world, of fear. Christchurch, big example. White Island, as I drove down here, I heard White Islands bubbling away. Tongariro last week. What's next? That's the world going, what's next? And so if you look at that, this is the kind of things that are around us. What's next? So we're looking in Auckland at transforming ideas, science, technology. On a bus coming back from one of the rugby games, I talked to the mayor and Owen Glenn, my map, about an innovation quarter. And within 2 weeks, we announced that on the waterfront, we'd put an innovation quarter. I raced down, talked to my mate Peter Jackson. We talked about film and technology and smart thinking. And suddenly, we're away. We've probably got about 20 companies now that want to come down the waterfront. Expensive space. Don't they ask how much it's going to cost? No. They want to be there. They want to be in. So if you capture an idea, it happens. We went up to China, talked to a couple of companies. They want to be in. They want to come down there. We're not selling them anything except investment. But why do the Chinese want to come? Because they're obsessed with food security. Obsessed. It's the one thing you can stop them in their tracks. Talk about food. Talk about security. Here in the Waikato, you could in fact own that. You could own that huge market called food security. That's the next, if I said there's a trend that you should own, smart technology, food. From the cow to the milk to the powder to the tin to the babies. Wow. From the food process to just keep following that. I talk to Tyndall about that all the time. Here is what we do well. Here is trust. China's big, for all our concerns and worries about that, they love innovation. Oh yeah, they sure do like. There's some drop-off sides, and that about copyright and who copies what. But when you look at where it's going, they like us. They like New Zealand very much. It's a great window of opportunity. It's a window here very, very strong window. I would gather a group together and go once, go twice, bring business back to the Waikato. Just create it, because they love what you're talking about. They don't have what you have here. Don't ignore that. It's innovation and smartness and trust. New Zealanders just fly in. Americans, they get B group, you get A group. Why? Because three things. Let me tell you what the three things are. We opened the first embassy. I happened to be there with Norman Kirk in 1972 when the world treated China as a leper. Red China's going to bomb us, kill us, destroy us. They were starving at the time. We opened an embassy. Smart move. Second move, we didn't go to Iraq. What's that got to do with the price of fish? Well, it's got a lot to do with it. China begged the world, don't go to Iraq. Most countries went. Everyone went. We didn't. And the last but very important one, when China took over Hong Kong, the world stood back and said, well, we'll think about it. A guy called Walker, a worker who is the commissioner now in Beijing, rang Jim Bolger and said, hey, we should be in on this. And went next day, and Bolger said yes, said to the Chinese, we'll accept Hong Kong as part of China. The Americans took another 6 weeks. The Australians took 3 months. And Britain hated it because they hadn't forgiven America for stealing their colony away. But it took about 5 months. We said yes the next day. That's what's helped the door open when Clark and now John Key has kept that free trade agreement. So I come here just with saying what you can do. What you can do with strength and unity here is innovation in that. And look at the sectors that united you could become. You can't do this divided, if you like. You can do it together. And look at the sectors that are available for you. Joining up, if you like, in one single unit, which I didn't come here to tell you you should do, but I think it's a great idea, is that you can capture food and beverage, the creative areas. Don't do V8s. You should do marine education. I didn't do jokes. I'm sorry, I shouldn't do jokes. Biosecurity, hugely important. Bioscience. You have got the world to look at if you can get your act together. Collectively, you're great. But I think Waikato needs a place in the world. Jump over Auckland and get your own strengths. You look awfully smart to me. I'm sure you can do this. So this is the kind of thing. This is what we did. This is what happens when you're united. That's Jellicoe Street. Fish markets, tanks, kind of no one goes there. Port of Auckland, red fence, bullying, draconian, 80 years. That's what happened last year. We were a year last weekend. Look at that. I probably think 70,000 people came down to this wharf last weekend. That's what it was when I came in. We put 500 extra people on to create that for Rugby World Cup. Can I ask you, how many people have been down to the Auckland waterfront? That's fantastic. That's terrific. We created 2 boulevards. They're 3 kilometres long. I didn't come here to skate. I came here to tell you what you could do. We developed a partnership with Māori. Don't do anything unless you work with Māori. Please don't do that. It is the most enlightening and the most trustworthy thing you could do. And that's how Auckland used to look. I love this, and I wanted to bring it because I'm crazy about this map. This is the map, 1847. It's got every street. It's got the beginning of the wharves. At this time, there's only 2 cities in the world with 1 million people. There was Moscow and Peking. And this is the beginning of Auckland. It didn't go very far. That was it. But this was a map. Somebody drew it from a balloon, I guess. Well, they sent something up because every street, every house, every dunny, every little piece is drawn, and it's just superb. And it inspired me. I wanted to bring it down because it's so 1885. And we grew, and we did terrific things on the waterfront in Auckland. We had our history, and we still have the history because it doesn't go away. And then the flying boats, and suddenly technology came, and Auckland had this potential, but it waited. It feuded, and it didn't agree. It took almost 80 years to agree. And now we have the first Auckland plan. And so what do we know? And this is what I want you to find out. You need to know and do your work, the major centres of employment, the levels of unemployment. You need to know them. I guess you might, but if you don't, you need to know how clever your people are. You know how the incomes are. Okay, I know there's probably a rural bent to this, which we don't have, but you still need to know that knowledge, because knowledge is everything. You can't project your future unless you know where you've been, what you've got, and where you want to go. And you've got to absolutely build big dreams. You've got to know your population under 5, I reckon. 10% and 15% of the people, population under 25. Auckland is very young. It feels very young. It feels amazingly progressive. It feels visionary. And it feels united. And it feels strong. It feels courageous. And it feels clean and it feels safe. You need to know what doesn't work and what isn't working. My city for a long time had a very low socio-economic rate that just made me, grief was easy in the West, and then it suddenly was transformed. And you need to know where your transport links are. I think for the Waikato, this is hugely important, where you are and where you're going. Inland ports. God, I love inland ports. Create those dreams, and talk and pull things from Auckland and from Tauranga. In other words, you must think bigger than the boundaries that you may be thinking right now. You've got to think that 50 years, think those 100-year plans, and then go and do them. That's what I totally and absolutely believe, that your dreams have got to be huge. I look at this audience. This is a great audience. You've got ideas. You understand instinctively where you can. So in showing you the Auckland model, I'm actually showing you your model. Transport links are hugely important to me. And the major environmental attributes, the harbours, the regional parks. You've got to keep this place clean. You've got to keep it green, because this is your showcase. Because I'm talking on a global scale. I'm talking about you capturing markets that you might not even think of right now. Possibly India. Maybe, why not? Infrastructure is not good there. China's smarter, quicker, more agile. And think like us. Think like New Zealand. That's the Auckland story so far. How it's probably on a world scale. I think that it's quite amazing how quickly we've got up to speed. We just don't do these things in local government as fast as this. This is a fantastic example. It was like a bloody great big genie inside a bottle, and then Len Brown just pulled the cork out, and out it jumped. That's Auckland. But the genie could be a bit monstrous. And that's not a warning, but just caution that it's style, it'll grow very quickly. It'll grow enormously in the next 10 years. It'll suck things out of the air. It'll suck the oxygen out of New Zealand if we're not careful. Wellington, I fear for Wellington. It was the centre of the universe. It ran New Zealand. It doesn't anymore. In fact, it was smaller than Waitakere. Wellington suddenly the power. I talked to Sir Geoffrey Palmer about the reforms that are going on there. They seriously need to get their act together, or they'll be small and pointless. A little town with the beehive. And the big town up the road is going to be the future. I want you to be more competitive to that. I want you to join with that. How's that for a start? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I think the structure is really working very well. We don't talk enough to each other. In other words, we've kind of paired up, about like people at a dance. So we've paired up with ATEED, who do events, and they come to our house and we go to theirs. So we come board to board. And we talk to property, but we don't talk to water enough. And transport seems a little reluctant to talk with anybody. But we get on. So are they working well? I talked with the mayor last night about the review. After 2 years, we were all up for review. And so they're a bit obsessed with reviewing us. The board reviews the chair reviews the board, and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit 1960s to me, but the review has said the board, the CCOs, are working really well. I'm very honest with this audience. What isn't working well? Some have been a bit clumsy. And obviously around World Cup, the transport at the first day was horrific and chaotic, and a lot of stuff fell out of there. To be honest, that first day, back to Rugby World Cup, I thought it probably could have led to a horrific disaster. So many people came down. I mean, 200,000 people came down. That anticipated that 80,000 would come down. Well, 200,000 came down to see Peter Blake holding up the cup. So why would you plan for 80,000 people? Look, I didn't care about people falling in the water because we could pull them out. But I did care about people being pressed against the fences and the buildings. And that was what it looked like. But it was the fact was the audience, the crowds were not drunk, and they were terribly polite. People said, "Oh, excuse me, sorry, bring the baby through," type of thing. I thought it was just so terrifying. And if you said what has been the worst moment of my life, I think being part of 200,000 people that had been planned for 80,000. And that was the opening night, and the crowds pushing away to try and get into Britomart was something that you only see in bad movies, I guess, on iTube. It had the makings of a disaster because the planning had not worked. That was a wake-up call. We're now dealing with big cities, with a big city. So, yeah, the CCOs, 7 out of 10. I guess everyone knows what the CCOs do. We control each of with the 7 of us, property, the zoo, the museums, and we report to council every month. And the council have got up to speed with that. When we first went along to council, we stood at the back, and then we stood like naughty school kids, I guess, and reported to the council. Now we're allowed to sit at the table. So they've got up to speed too, and treat us like adults. And serious, it's just attitude. Couple more? Yes. Yeah, I guess one of the things that personally I thought I might have a go for that mayoralty because of the executive power and the Ken Livingstone. Both Banks and I both talked to Ken Livingstone about how London operated with that. And then it seemed that that wasn't going to come to that job. And I certainly felt that the executive powers which is important. But to be honest, Len seems to have taken that mantle. If he doesn't have it, he's got it. And he talks about the mandate. He speaks of the mandate quite a lot. And so the leadership role that he plays, if he doesn't have it, you think he does have it. And then the council are reluctant to oppose him. There's some group of councillors that do, of course, and they grab the media somewhat, but he does not have what I would have thought should have gone, and Hyde stepped back from that to actually say to the mayor, "You're it. You have those executive powers, and the council will follow." I think that the role of that, is politically, I think, hugely important. And it depends on the person. Brown, who came out of the mayoralty of Manukau, and he'd been 13 years on the council, and he was following Sir Barry, which was a very hard act to follow, who had executive powers in Manukau. If ever there was a mayor that had executive power, Barry ran it more as like an emperor than a mayor. But he did so much, and you've got to do that in a way. It's a degree of cajoling, of charming, of showing leadership, and getting things through. You're only as good as a mayor of getting things through. If you can't get anything through, the council and you will be tossed out. So it's very important when we talk about changing that leadership and good leadership comes out of this organisation. It can't be done with squabbling, with council implosions. So leadership is important. You can't do it without that. And you can't do it with a major vision and a secure idea. This is what we stand for, and this is what we're going to do. I'm sure that Sydney example, whoever charmed Lightheart or whatever, to do that was on terrific leadership and a big dream, and deliver that. One more. Is the team going to come back up here?
They are. Yep.
What,
so
can I,
I'll ask you to come back up. And is Rod still here?
yep.
Rod.
I'll take that while we're...
Calvin Mulgrove, actually from Auckland. You said about pouring the concrete, and in some ways the new council structure, the cement hasn't set completely, and local boards are still finding their way with governing body.
Yeah.
Just wondered, any comments on local boards, particularly out west?
The local boards out west have no reason to complain. Yes, there is some funding missing from a couple of the projects. Yes, they've put the Ranui Library back 2 years, and we tossed out a wonderful Indian family from a dairy and said, sorry, you're gone, and it was a tragic kind of thing. And then we raised the ground, and then there was a library. Now they've been told, library in 2 years, not now. But everything else they've had. The environmental stuff, which they're very strongly focused on, they've got twin streams, they've got the planting programs, they've got, I'm a Westian, so I see and hear, I'm very close to them. Out of 10, they've got 8. So I'm pretty happy with that, but has it gelled yet? Is the cement gelled? I don't know, but then if you ask the French about what they thought of the French Revolution, they say it's too early to tell. So these things evolve. It's never right, the cement will always be a bit wet, but at least you got it. You've got it, the foundations. So I think that the boards, I'm very close to the Waitemata boards, and I think they're honoured, respected, they're not treated as badly. The community boards were treated very badly with the old councils. They had no power, and they often feuded with the main council. This is a different relationship. It's more equal, it's more substantial, and the people on it, I think, are terrific. So I'm doing a bit of a rave about the community councils, they're called, and what they do. The team's back upstage, so we can sit.
Perhaps we can